but a lot of the people that you see on YouTube or even Instagram or whatever that seem like they're like sponsored by this microphone company and this, they're not actually really working engineers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smoke and
I
mirrors.
was hoping that you would touch on that. Welcome again, everybody, to the Studio 101 podcast. My name is Brad Phillips. Our guest here today is the Mr. Joe Carrell. Joe, thanks for giving us an opportunity to come over and hang out and chat just a little bit today.
You're very welcome. Welcome to Nashville.
Yes,
You're
sir.
having a good time. Of course, from what we spoke before you got here, you know Nashville fairly well.
Yeah, I lived here maybe 5 or 6 years, I guess so. But that was kind of old Nashville, so it's a little bit of new Nashville now, and having to navigate some new things that are here.
Those of us that have been here a long time, every couple of years it's reinventing itself. It's crazy.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm staying near downtown, so I had to come interstate here at what time of the day are we? Maybe 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
Oh my
probably.
goodness, that was a
Yeah.
nightmare. That was a nightmare.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah.
real nightmare.
Getting around Nashville is not a fun thing anymore at all. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure it's not as bad as Atlanta or Los Angeles, but it's not good. It's
Yeah.
not good.
Well, where we live in the Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina area is one of the top 5 fastest growing cities in the U.S. right now.
Wow.
So yay us in some ways. And then on the flip side is our interstate traffic is very, very similar to what I just experienced in the
Oh,
middle of the day.
oh, nice.
So,
Or not nice.
yeah, however you want to look at it, growth can mean good things, growth can mean bad things
There's
as well.
always some of both. That's right. Give and take.
Yeah, for sure. But Joe, we'd been talking about getting together and
Mhm.
just having this conversation, and I was thinking through several things that I wanted you and I to talk about. And the first thing is, I always want everybody to kind of tell your story a little bit. Where you're born and how you kind of got into audio engineering and
Yeah.
all those kind of things. If you want to share a little bit about
Sure.
that.
Well, I was born in Germany, actually. My dad was in the military. And so, but I only lived there not even quite a year. So I have no memories of it outside of pictures. But I was raised in Southern Illinois. My mom and dad were from there and they moved back to there to be around family. So I spent my whole childhood and actually early adult years there. Um, got into music my dad bought me a drum set when I was 7. And I think it was because I was such a big music buff. I used to rock myself as I demanded like Snoopy and the Red Baron to be playing on the turntable so I could go to sleep and things like that. So that probably had something to do with it. And I used to ask that tape machine right there, that quarter-inch tape machine, that's his. And I'd listen to, I would ask him to give me those big old Pioneer headphones that were bigger than my head and listen to all the stuff of the day. And anyway, um, the Cheap Trick record, live at Budokan,
Okay.
1978. So I was a little guy. But it had a huge, huge impact on me. The way that drummer, the energy, and the way the drummer drove the band. It wasn't just the drummer, but he was large and in charge, right?
Right.
Bunny Carlos, and that really really did something to me. I was a little rocker because my dad was a rocker. He kind of Creedence Clearwater Revival and stuff. So at that age, in the 70s and the late 70s, early 80s, Kiss was I loved Kiss, because they looked like freaks and they played rock and roll. It was rock for sure. Um, and got into guitar. Started taking guitar lessons in 4th grade, I think. My parents were not a very wealthy people at all. Actually, quite the opposite. But they were uh, really supportive of all my ambitions from the bedroom, and always really worked hard to make sure I had little keyboards, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, drums, one cymbal at a time. Um, but and then church, I started playing. I was that kid that they would come and tap on the Sunday school room door, and when I heard that tap at a certain time, I knew that's what it was. It's like, okay, they're coming to get me out to play in the big service, so I could have to rehearse with the adults because whoever was playing drums wasn't there. Um, So that's great upbringing,
Yeah.
playing with people that are 30 years your
Older than you.
yeah, yeah, and that was great. And but marching band in school, just all that kind of stuff. Got started playing in clubs when I turned 21 because I really needed money.
Yeah.
So I was doing that part time. Be out playing in church on Saturday night and then get up for to play. I'm sorry, out playing in clubs on Saturday night to get up to play in church on Sunday morning.
That's a
You know.
that's a pattern. That's a
Oh
thing.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was just part of it. But
Yeah.
I was always interested in sound. So that's how I got into the music in the first part. But as a drummer, because drums are the hardest thing to record and tune and all that kind of stuff, um, I noticed. I mean, from the Cheap Trick record in 1978, the drums that are in my room that I'm playing right now do not sound like what I hear that's on the radio, that's on this record or whatever the case may be. So I really got into chasing those sounds in my teenage years, honestly, as far as adjusting heads and all that kind of stuff on snare drums and tom toms and things like that. And it led to wanting to record myself. So I bought a back. This would have been the '90s, and I bought a Mackie 1604
Okay.
and 8
Oh my Lord!
So
Don't say ADATs.
yes,
Don't say that
yeah,
out loud.
yeah. Actually, just one. I just had one. Yeah, I think I just had one eight at
Eight tracks.
8 tracks. Yeah, exactly that I could do. And anyway, I'll try to. I'm lingering on, so I'll try to wrap it up. I got an opportunity up there in Southern Illinois, very rural Southern Illinois. I don't know. It's hard to put it into words, but I always knew, even though I was in my 20s and making a living in Illinois the way anybody would make a living, working in a factory or whatever the case may be. I'd spent some years in a factory. Um, Somehow something was going to work out, that I was meant to. This was more this was a passion of this quantity for a reason.
Sure.
And I the church that I went to was going to Nashville to record a record and work with Bobby Bradley, who was Harold Bradley's nephew.
Yeah.
Harold had just died. No, I'm sorry, Owen Bradley, he's the guy that founded Music Row, literally founded music. I mean, that Music Row is Music Row because that's where he built his studio, and then Chet built one cattywampus around the block,
Gotcha.
and so he came up in that. Right, Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, like he was recording stars, Conway Twitty, and all that kind of stuff. And went down, did a session, my first real studio that wasn't a project studio in somewhere in Illinois, like Mount Vernon, Illinois, or Evans. I did go to Evansville, Indiana, and record in an ADAT studio. I think they had 3 or 4 ADATs there, which was big time.
Yeah,
A Mackie 8 bus. Come on.
Yeah, 15 seconds to lock up 3
Right,
units
yeah,
with
exactly.
one button.
But I just absolutely fell in love with the studio, and like I said, I tried to build my own at home. But when I met Bobby, that's when the doors opened. And one thing led to another, and I started assisting him when I was in my 20s, later 20s. And which, after about 3 years of assisting him, going back and forth, because that company that I was working for at the time built a really nice world-class studio up there in Illinois in the boonies, believe it or not. And they were hiring him to come up and work certain sessions. And they would bring up, I mean, like big name tracking guys from Nashville, like the John Hammonds and the John Willises and Dave Hungates of the world. Dave Hungate, like Toto, were driving up there. They were paying him well enough to drive up there. And so I went from a home studio in ADAT studios in Evansville, Indiana, and Mount Vernon, Illinois, and to big studios with literally a huge, doing orchestra with a huge selection of Owen Bradley's personal collection of Telefunkens and Neumanns. And I mean, I was spoiled rotten right out of the gate, and working with Dave Hungate, because as a drummer, Jeff Porcaro was my biggest influence, and just getting to sit in there and talk to him about Porcaro and what it was like to play Rosanna, and in the studio before they knew it was going to be a hit, and like it was a big deal. So man, I've never looked back. I mean, I still and now that I've crossed 50, I'm still just as passionate as I was when I was, there's a record on the wall. That's why I keep pointing to Cheap Trick up there. As I was at 8 years old, listening to that,
Yeah.
every bit, and probably maybe more. I don't
Yeah,
know.
killer. So you didn't really have necessarily any like formal training on the engineering side other than just like School of Hard Knocks kind of
Right,
a
right. So
training.
back in the 90s, there were a few schools that existed. I think Belmont had a program, but I don't think it was all that,
Yeah, it
it
was
wasn't all that yet.
mid 90s. So I guess I'm going to date myself also, but mid 90s I came to Belmont. So 95-ish.
Okay.
I came to Belmont.
I graduated high school in '88.
So mid '90s, Belmont had created the music business program, which had an audio engineering emphasis,
right,
along
right.
with record company operations and music
Yeah,
all this.
yeah.
So it was really honestly a little bit on the front end.
Yeah, it's nothing near the scope of what it is today, from what I understand. Talking to people like Chuck Ainley. Chuck Ainley went there, believe it
Sure,
or not.
yeah, Stephen
But
Curtis Chapman, all kinds of
there you
people
go.
that
Yeah,
were there. So.
I think the conservatory was out in Phoenix, and Full Sail was already going. But the schooling that your viewers know of now, where so many schools, states, private schools, state schools, have some kind of program. That wasn't what it was like back then.
Correct.
So I honestly, I'm super glad that I did come up the way that I came up. So Bobby was at the time that I was working for him, probably, gosh, a 30-year veteran, and he came up under, like Joe Mills and I mean, his uncle was Harold Bradley and Owen Bradley, right? I mean, one of the most successful session guitar players in country music history, piano player, producers in country music history. So he came up in that camp. So I started working under him, learning those techniques and things, So being thrown in the fire, and really early on, all I was allowed to do was kind of shadow him and help set up and tear down microphones and run errands, and then you work your way up to tape op, which was digital tape then. We had already passed analog tape, there in the 90s.
Sony machine, half-inch digital.
There was Sony's, Mitsubishi's, the Tascam, what do you call it? The DA88s back
DA88s.
then,
Okay, yeah.
Alesis ADATs. There were digital tapes in various forms had kind of taken over. But yeah, I'm really really glad that did come up that way. So yeah, no formal training. Bobby was my instructor. Yeah, yeah, and watching people, like the Brent Masons of the world and the Dave Hungates and stuff you learn pretty quick in those rooms.
Even when you're observing as the assistant
Oh gosh,
engineer or
yeah,
whatever, yeah.
the terminology and the um, I, I always tell people, when you get in the room as an aspiring musician or engineer producer, and you go from your college room or your friend's room or your local room, and you go into a real studio. What I shouldn't say real studio.
No,
That's
I get you.
but you know what I mean.
A
You go in,
professional
yeah, yeah, and
setting,
you
yeah.
you go into London or New York or L.A. or Nashville with the guys that you're hearing on the radio every day in the respective genres, and watch them work. You're going to be one of two things: scared to death, and that's the end of the career, because it's like, oh my God, that's like heads and shoulders, knees and toes above where I'm at right now, and I don't think I can get that way. Like I'm scared. Or you're like, holy crap, that's heads and tails above where I'm at now, but I'm inspired to get there. And you chase it. It's one of those two things, and I chased really hard. Became very just obsessed with it. But I think that's what it takes, to impress the guys that you need to impress. They need to see real drive, real ambition, genuine.
Yeah, and kind of, taking things on your own, maybe going a little bit over and above and beyond maybe what you're expected to do.
Oh yeah, you
And
don't leave at 5 o'clock. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what the schedule says.
correct. Yeah,
Um,
and you are going to get coffee if you're assistant engineer.
mhm,
You might go pick up lunch and paying your dues a little bit, but that
mhm,
thing kind of plays into the whole picture.
yeah.
And one of the things that you and I talked about just a few minutes ago was the fact that these types of sessions that we're talking about from the 90s and early 2000s with live session musicians in the room, over the past 20 to 25 years, it's kind of changed a little bit as to what some of that stuff looks like, as far as session tracking and those things. There's a lot of sessions these days that get passed around to
Mhm.
home
Yep.
studios, maybe in 3 different states.
Right.
There's track programming where an entire track will get programmed in Logic or Ableton or whatever software you're in.
Mhm.
The thing that I've always loved about following your content and your journey online is the fact that you continue to bring to light the fact that, okay, Joe's putting up a video, drum, full band drum tracking day, and kind of letting everyone know, like, hey, this is still happening. Live musicians are still getting together in a
Mhm.
room, we're hitting the red button and everybody's reading the chart,
Yeah.
and still doing the thing that really has a magic to it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And still being able to, even though if we're printing in Pro Tools or whatever we're recording to, whatever software, the I think at Treasure Isle you guys still have a Trident.
We do.
We
We
have a
have a
Trident.
Trident, it's a version of an 80 series,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that full analog console on the
Mhm.
front end.
Mhm.
Joe's got the best of the best microphones on the drum kit, and we're trying to capture a really, really great drum kit to Pro Tools or whatever
Mhm.
software you're tracking to.
Yep.
And just keeping those things alive, like you were, like when you came through the School of Hard Knocks,
Mhm.
kind of learning how sessions run, how to interact with musicians, learning the lingo, when to punch, when,
Mhm.
how to punch and get the right punch, following the chart. As an engineer in a lot of these sessions, especially in Nashville, you're going to be following a number chart.
Oh, yeah.
Based off
Yeah.
of what
And
what kind of
and
what genre you're in. If you're
right.
in Nashville, you're probably in a country section.
And sometimes a score,
Sure, with
an
notated.
orchestral score, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, true.
So, just speaking on that for a second, I was in a session yesterday at Ocean Way, which was all notated. And so every musician in the room was reading the score. Everything's tracked to SMPTE. SMPTE's running in the window, and there's a lot of moving parts to those sessions that are even probably double or triple what you would see in a country publisher demo session.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a lot of moving parts. Just for instance, yesterday there's just a Pro Tools engineer,
Mhm.
and she's just running the Pro Tools rig.
Mhm.
She has all the markers in the session, and she knows when the musician says we need to go to measure 72.
Mhm.
She has to be dialed
Caitlin,
in.
right?
Yes,
I've worked
she's amazing. She's amazing.
I've worked with her twice this year, yeah.
No, it was amazing to watch her work, and she is dialed in. She's super focused. She's not distracted.
Mhm.
She's there to make sure everything runs super smooth the whole day.
Mhm.
And those are some intrinsic things that I think in the session world that I don't want to get lost in translation with just programming songs at home.
Mhm.
With all of those things, those are some things that I'm passionate about that I don't want to get lost in the audio engineering world that you and I kind of knew from
Mhm.
25 years ago.
Well,
So,
yeah, I think the reason I kind of push content or videos, like, hey, this is what's going on today in my stories on Instagram or something like that, with that kind of stuff in there, is because I know there are guys out there that are content to wherever they live and whatever DAW they use and make beats, and that's fine. I'm not knocking that. That's one level of musicianship or production. Some forms of music, that's almost all there is, right? That, with vocals on top of it, hip hop and things like that. And that's there's a market for that, right? I mean, they sell a lot of records, the successful ones do. Um, but then there's guys that want to have studios in, like, well, you do, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, I want to have a studio. I want to have local musicians. Sometimes bring, other guys from outside in, and I want to make the best record I can. But there's a lot of people out there, I think, that are the same way that I was when I was their age, and they're to. I still think they see, the what Bob Clearmountain, Al Schmidt, R.I.P. Rest in peace, as the be all end all, best of the best, like, chased that.
Mhm.
And I'm really lucky. I mean, and that I got to chase that in an era where that was still, the thing. And the thing is I think a lot of people are misled to believe that's not a thing anymore, but it is.
It's still there.
Nashville has a lot of studios, and we are cranking all day, every day
Yeah.
in country, whether it's traditional or modern country, rock, pop, hip hop, orchestral, or our recording orchestra can't get a day off. They
Yeah.
work themselves to the bone
Yeah.
because there's so much work coming here from not only music, where it's like, hey, we need strings on top of this,
Yeah.
modern country thing or this rock thing,
But from the
but
Phillips
also
perspective,
film, video games, and big stage shows and stuff.
sure.
I got an account a couple years ago with Disney, a portion of Disney that had always done their tracking in New York, as you would expect, because it's Broadway.
Sure.
So most of those Broadway shows do record there. Well, union things, just they finally had enough of the union, so they came to Nashville, where it's I'm not to be political, but because it's a right to work state or whatever, and
The pricing can be a little different here. Is
right,
kind of
right, right. It's
kind of how it
yeah,
shifted.
yeah. I'm not being political, conservative versus liberal. I'm just saying they came here because of that, and I got the gig. So there's more and more of that. As far as Walt Disney doing things in Nashville. In fact, Chris, I think, played on one not too long ago. It's a mutual friend of ours. For his brother, I think, was producing something for a cruise ship. I'm doing a cruise ship. I got a cruise ship package in the works right now. Um, so for those guys, to get back on point, for those guys out there that see the guy sitting at the big analog console and see him recording drums, or sometimes an orchestra, or maybe even it's like, oh my God, they're recording all the rhythm section and the orchestra at the same time. Like, what
Right.
would that be like? It still exists. It really does. It's not going to be as common as it once was. Like even in LA, you talk to musicians out there, and they like, they're bummed about that they don't really get to play with other musicians very much in the studio.
Yeah.
But there are some circles where that happens, and out there. And then, of course, in London, you got Abbey Road and Air, which is doing some of the biggest film work in the world, as well as all the rhythm sections. At Nashville, we we're just flooded with that kind of work.
Right.
So for those guys that are aspiring to, that's not a dinosaur thing of the past. It still exists. There's still people looking for engineers that are the best of the best and know how to record basically everything and run a session and get it on tape efficiently and cleanly. And so if that's your aspirations, it does still exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And that's what I wanted. I kind of want to get that message out there
no,
for the guys that have the same dreams that I did.
sure, yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier about what I love about you being intentional about the things that you post, and I think it sends a message to say like hands-on engineers are still alive and well,
Oh yeah.
still doing their thing. There's still opportunities to work,
Hmm.
from an analog console and rack gear and real microphone,
Oh yeah.
old Neumann microphones and all
Oh
those
yeah.
things, are
Absolutely. Neat
still alive.
consoles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
API consoles. You bet.
right. And once again, for those listening, this is not a knock on anything that's
Mm-mm.
being programmed. This is just a different way to do things that, I think is, Joe, we were talking about your social media
Mhm.
a little bit earlier, and maybe this is a good time for you to touch on, was there a point at which you felt like, um, I need to jump into the social media world and share with the world I mean, some of the videos you do are super hilarious. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, right, yeah.
they're,
Today
they're
was a joke one
yeah, they're
mine, yeah,
incredibly
yeah.
comical and people love that, obviously, the personality side of what you do on social media, and I know there's purpose to things and,
Mhm,
are you, uh, there's brand deals and
mhm,
sponsorships and all
mhm.
these things that come along with all of that stuff. Um, Man, I don't know if you can give us a 30,000-foot view of, kind of you jumping
I
into the social
I
media
I would
world,
be
but
glad to,
yeah.
honestly, 'cause it's tough for me because currently, most of the people, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the people that you see on YouTube or even Instagram or whatever that seem like they're, it's like, sponsored by this microphone company and this, you know, um they're not actually really working engineers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smoke and
I
mirrors.
was hoping that you would touch on that. So thank
There,
you.
if you type in Mr. Influencer on, All Music or something, you find out it's like, wait a minute, They've never actually what have they worked on because there's no history. So, be careful who you take advice from because a lot of it is can either be bad advice or it's just recycled, right? So they watch Warren Hewitt or somebody that was a successful engineer,
Pensado.
Dave Pensado, and then just recycle that to keep, to try to make their mark and living, as an influencer since the engineering thing didn't really work out. Okay, that's not where I'm at. Mine started out very innocently, honestly, because of being in Nashville and working on records and various awards and things like that. Um, I had some companies that I was friendly with because when you're in a town like this and you're working on records, sometimes you do get asked to try this mic, try this compressor. You develop relationships. You go to NAM and they maybe know who you are, so you converse at the booth, right? Okay, so fast or flashback to gosh, I don't know what year that would have been, and I think maybe the first was Warm Audio, if I'm remembering right.
That seems. I think I think I was aware of you more for something related to
That's
Warm
probably
Audio. That's what I think.
there may have been something before that, but that's the first big one that I remember where they were really starting to make a mark on the industry, and they asked me to. It was at NAM in Nashville. They asked me to go to dinner with some of the people that was hanging around the booth. It was like, hey, we're going to go have tacos or whatever. So they took some of us out, that were customers. I mean, fans of their products, and they asked me to do a series of videos and maybe when they had a new microphone come out, let me test it against an original because at the time I was in a room that had a lot of the stuff that of the originals that they were going to
They were gonna
copy.
clone them.
So it's
Yeah.
like, can we send this to you and you let us know how it stands up side by side, because we're going to send it to two or three other people in the same boat and see if everybody has the same kind of feel, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I started doing some videos, and which led to other companies. I guess probably they have people that are on staff, like with Plug-in Alliance or whomever the case may be, that are just fans. They're also recording engineers, right? But that just happens to be their day job, and they watch the videos and is like, oh, well, okay, that guy seems personable or knows what he's doing or what. Who knows? So one thing just kept leading to another. And industry, companies would contact you and say, "Hey, would you be interested in trying this product, and if you like it, doing a video on it and that kind of stuff." So it was kind of an accident, really. I didn't
Really?
go, yeah,
You
because I
weren't
didn't
going
have time
after it.
for it.
You weren't.
No, I didn't,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I mean, I
That's
worked.
another. Hold that thought, because that's
Okay.
another question too. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was
Sorry.
gonna say because I worked way too many 7-day weeks. So when I do videos, I lose money. I literally lose money because I can't. Those influencer guys, they record and edit and stuff their own videos because they have time because they're not necessarily in the studio working on records. I don't, so I have to hire all that done, and so I lose money to do that stuff. But here's the thing: for me, engineering is it's just my obsession. It's my passion, right? Music production. I should say music production, not necessarily engineering. Um, and I see so many influencers or want to be influencers or whatever, um, trying to teach the next generation or the current generation, but they've never actually been in the chair and done it successfully. And sometimes they're even teaching bad. So one time, well, it was a collection. It was numerous times of seeing some bad stuff, and I was just like, enough, right? Like that's enough. So I decided I wanted to combat it, and I wanted to put the right information out for people because I really believe there's people all over the world, and I know there is because they're in my Instagram like messaging and stuff every day. Um, that aspire to do this at the highest levels. And so they want to watch and learn from people that are, that they feel like they can learn from. That's why Warren Hewitt's channel was so successful, because I've done some work with him and some videos with him and stuff. Because here's a guy that during, I think it was kind of during the pandemic, um, or maybe it was a little before, was in the same boat. He was working engineer, working on real records all the time. He had that success with the Fray, He did one of his mentors got him a gig with Aerosmith, and he did an Aerosmith record. So he's got legit cred, right, and skill, and he had had enough of seeing some really bad information. People trying to, you talk to these companies and like manufacturers are sick of it because they're constantly in my inbox asking for free gear, constantly asking. It's like that's what their desire is for free stuff, um, and that shouldn't, that shouldn't really be the thing. But anyway, that's why his channel exploded. I think is because people, the people that we're talking about that really want to learn the craft. It was like, wait a minute, that guy. When I research him, he's real.
Credibility.
He's real. Like he's actually working on real records. And he's bringing up these multi tracks that he had recorded 2 weeks ago, and they sound good.
Yes.
It's like it. So he was really successful at it, and props to him. And Dave Pensado. I think Dave Pensado was like the first legit guy that pulled that curtain back and said, "Hey, well, come in the room.
Yeah, let me show you what I did on this vocal," and he gives you every single detail. Yeah,
and I want to carry that on. I want to teach what we talked as a dying art form of engineering, where it's like, yeah, you are going downtown and you're recording on big consoles with rooms full of famous studio musicians and things like that, and trying to mix at multiple genres at high levels. I want them. I just want to give them access to that the way that I wanted it when I was young, but didn't have it.
Yeah,
and YouTube didn't exist.
Right. So now we have this international, worldwide platform where a working engineer with legit credibility can kind of share these nuggets of wisdom along the way, and I love that, man. I love the mentality of that, where you're not trying to keep this. There's not some sort of secret thing that you're doing. And even in one of your latest mix videos, you're gonna have to help me remember the title, but it's basically just the common sense mix.
Back to the basics.
Back to the
probably.
basics. Yeah. And I mean that we live in a world where there's 25 million different plugins.
Oh gosh.
But there's also
there's probably 26 million today.
Yeah,
probably a million
new ones. but the approach of if it was tracked really well and you had really great musicians and everything's printed really, really well, then you don't have to carve and do all of the crazy plug-in stuff. That's just one example that I can think of, in the recent weeks that I've seen that you've done.
I'm glad you watched that.
Well, it just makes sense. It makes common sense in my mind when you think about things that way. And everyone has their own, mix approach, and that's why mix engineers are chosen to work on certain projects, and tracking engineers are chosen to work on, because your ears and in between your ears bring something to the table that someone else don't really have. So
it's funny because that video was actually in response to kind of being mad, to be real honest. I'm not going to name any names, but I watched a video one night. Again, I'm obsessed with this stuff, so I have very few hours off a week. But when I'm off, if I sit on the couch, what I'm likely to do is go to YouTube and
watch a video.
Because I still feel like a student too. I don't care what I've achieved and how many years I've been doing it. I want to be better next year than I am right now. I mean, it's like, just a drive, an ambition thing. And I watched a video, and this guy had Fab Filter with, it had to be 10 points of EQ, and not, he was taking out resonances on, I feel like it was like 6 to 8 bands of just,
on a master bus filter, maybe, or something.
No, this was on a lead vocal, I think. And then he did some kind of multi-band thing. This was on top of the rough mix plugins that he had been sent. So the producer or whatever already had what they thought was a sound. Yeah. So he goes in and puts like 12 bands, and 8 of them are notch filters and things. And then a multi-band that was not light. It was like a 6 to 8 band multi-band tool. Okay. Then he put Fab Filter on it again with a bunch more cuts, resonances, along with some general boosts and
like Soothe stuff. Or something. I feel like I've seen this video.
This was Fab Filter, but
okay.
But it's like the thing. It's like he's talking about. It's like, so I had over brightened it here, or it was so now I'm going to reduce a little bit of that. Yeah. Why are we opening a new plug-in on the back side to? you already have an EQ there.
And this
Just turn that high and down.
yeah, and this video
Just keep stacking them up.
probably had hundreds of thousands of views.
Probably.
I'm fairly positive I know which one you're talking about, and it drove me nuts just to watch it. It made my skin crawl. I was like, "What is happening?"
And
right
here's another thing about that video and that whole concept. The human voice, you guys, you already know this. You already know this, but let's just say it anyway. The human voice, the chest cavity, the head, the throat, is a resonance. That's what it is. So if you put 16 resonance killers, like literally band by band, this guy, he had to be using 12 to 16 to kill resonance of something that creates a sound by resonance.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying there's never.
So what was left? I mean, it's like, what is left?
A big old sterile linear blob. I mean, I'm not speaking out about Sooth 2. I love Sooth 2. I have Sooth 2. Yeah. I love FabFilter, right? Yeah. It's not that these are bad tools and that there's not a time and a place to do it, because there is. There's vocals we'll listen to. It's like, yeah, that 2K is resonating too hard on this girl. So let's take care of that. But just looking for resonances, it's like, okay, well, if I map it on FabFilter, I see there's these 8 spots right here that are peaking a little bit, so I have to cut them. No. That's probably peaking because they're singing in the A, and that's the fundamental of an A. Yeah. Why are you killing the A? That's the note they're singing. It just doesn't, you know what I mean?
It's fantastic.
So these are guys that probably weren't trained right by, and not to sound elitist, because that's not what I want to get across. I want to sound just the opposite. I want to say I'm very blessed and very lucky to have come up underneath real engineers that did it the real way back in the day when Pro Tools didn't exist, right? I mean, they had 4 bands of EQ on a console and a couple 1176s in the rack, maybe an LA2A. Their tools were microphone choices. Okay, you choose your microphone. Okay, this is an instrument that I want to have a little extended top end, so I'm going to use a mic with extended top end, and I'm going to place it here to avoid, problems or whatever. Or I'm going to choose a dark mic because this is a bright piano and this is a jazzy record, so we want to combat that. Their tools were their tools, right? And they didn't have to overthink all that stuff because they
didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice. Yeah. But those records that Al Schmidt does, where it's all placement, all choice, and there's no EQ, right? I mean, or virtually. Man, I know he uses a multi-band compressor on the final bus or whatever. They sound freaking amazing because he knew what mics to use and where to place them, and of course, great musicianship. But that's what I want to teach these guys. I don't want them to think, okay, well, I guess I got to put 16 points of resonance killers on there. No. Yeah. Like, let's have a vocal that is resonant and alive, alive sounding
for sure.
Not a dead, just flat line.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. And well, let me go here real quick. So, for those of you who follow Joe or have seen your stuff online, Joe like physically answers messages on Instagram.
Oh, gosh, which is every day,
which is incredibly amazing. It's super personal, and I, for one, have sent you stuff before, and I think I asked you this question. Kind of, if you kind of watch your social media, you can see like the progression of when you're in the room mixing here, or maybe you're at Treasure Isle or Oceanway or wherever you are, and you're working. Mm-hmm. Like it's visibly obvious on a regular basis, like you're working. So I think I sent you this question one time that you touched on just a minute ago. For engineers who are working and would like to put out some content, maybe similar to what you're doing, or whatever your personality you want to put out as a working engineer. Do you have a set schedule per week, per month? Do you have days that you shoot content only and then schedule that for the rest of the month? Is there a way in your mind that you handle scheduling the content side of things?
No, honestly, it's so fly by the seat of my pants because this has to come first. I mean, that's how I make my money. Like I said, a lot of the videos I lose money. So sometimes maybe SSL will have a new plugin coming out, and they're like, "Hey, would you do an announcement plugin with some demonstration or an announcement video?" And they'll tell me when it's going to air. Okay. So I know to call my video guy.
You have a deadline,
and it'd say, "What do you have this week, and I just have to take a break for a couple hours and film it. Um, and it's very by the seat. I'm sure people would be shocked if they could actually follow me around for a week. It's like, holy cow,
That's funny.
it's
And I
just
mean,
so.
well, I mean, in your room here, in your mix room here, you don't really have a camera system set up to capture what you're
I
doing
hire it
all.
all done.
So you're bringing in somebody to do that, and
Yeah,
because there's some engineer friends of mine who just decided that, hey, I'm gonna put up a few cameras and
yeah,
screen capture, and if I need to make a video while I'm thinking about a mix, and I can
yeah.
grab things, so
I
um,
I I actually just upgraded a couple months ago to the iPhone 16 Pro Max or whatever,
which is a great
just so I
camera.
could do that because it's got that, what do you call it, the Apple log setting. So I want to get to the point where I can flip on. I have a, what do you call it, a softbox slide over there, and and I have a laptop. You've probably seen it in the video, a laptop rig that captures the output of this Pro Tools system and my speaking. So I want to get to the point where I can film it myself and send it out, but just for the reason you said. Um, it'll
It'll
open up a,
streamline
yeah,
everything for you a little bit rather than having to call someone to come in and all those kind of things.
right,
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, I get where you're coming from. It's like, and I'm I am no major player in the content creation world whatsoever, and my struggle has been for the past several years is like I feel like I'm working, and then to take a pause, I feel like I'm kind of stressing myself like I should be working to finish this mix.
Yeah.
But,
It's
but I had
rough.
an idea about it. I was like, this would be super cool if we captured this in a video.
Yeah.
And I sort of I have several engineers that work with me at my place in South Carolina, and those guys started to encourage me to sit down in this format and talk to other engineers and have a kind of an outlet to create some content.
Mhm.
Because from the podcast we can pull some shorts and some reels and all
Mhm.
and still photos and all those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
So I'm working on it. I'm working on it from my end
Yeah.
to try to have a little bit more of a creative outlet, and I love these connections that I can make with working engineers such as yourself to get a different perspective about how you do things, and your life experiences are uh, they're different than mine
Oh,
as an
sure. Yeah.
engineer,
Yeah.
and being able to share those with people. You never know. I think you never know what someone can pull from just this conversation that we're having right now.
Mhm.
So that's been one of the things that I've tried to do over the past 18 months or so is have more of these conversations, And I'm sitting here interrupting Joe while he's
No, no, no,
needs to be working.
it's good.
But
I'll
but
I'll get it done. I'll get it
yeah,
done.
yeah.
I have no choice. It's a
But
deadline.
but to another point, I guess, creating the social media side of, your your business,
Yeah.
or, kind of selling yourself um, with content.
That was kind of an accident too.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, well, kind of tell us and fill us in on like what you feel like the return on investment has looked like as far as mixing, tracking days.
Okay.
Like, what does that look
Yeah.
like for you?
Well, the Instagram, because my Instagram, it does really well. I mean, I think it's probably approaching 50,000. I don't know. Which in our niche industry, I think that's all, it's awesome. And I'm really, thankful for all the people that want to follow along, whether it's to laugh at the joke
The goofy
stuff,
videos, yeah.
or get little tutorial clips, or, whatever the case may be. I mean, thanks for being interested. But this is, oh gosh, I don't know, a handful of years ago, I had an assistant, no, I'm sorry, an intern.
Okay.
I get interns uh, regularly throughout the year from different schools in the area and stuff. And it was a girl that did not actually want to be an engineer. She was there just for the whole studio experience. So most of the kids you get want to be engineers. Every once in a while, you get some that just they're aspiring writers or various things, but they think they need to be in that room to take the next step. So I had a girl that, you know, most of these younger, the 20 somethings are way better at social media than guys that's got
Yeah.
this much gray hair.
Sure, for sure.
And she was giving me ideas. It's like, hey, like what you're doing right now, like let me film that and you put it on your social media. Okay, sure. Like, great.
You just handle it for me. Yeah.
And then, she's a young kid trying to make her living here in town. And so I thought, well, gosh, let me just give her, a fee. Let me pay her a certain number of dollars per week to handle my social media and come up with ideas.
Mhm.
So you're scrolling Instagram probably a lot more than me, and you see this funny audio. It's like, hey, that is studio relatable.
Mhm.
Let's film a video for it before our tracking session, and I will put it up on your page during the tracking session, and there's your post for the day. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So honestly, I wish it was me that could say I'm so smart. Look what I did with this social media thing. It was her. She was the one that took that and ran with it. And I logged her into all my accounts, and she just does it. Like that funny thing that I showed today with the snare drums, trying to choose one.
Uh-huh.
That was her.
Right.
She's like, hey, this is a clip that's going really well. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, snare drums. So she'll give me, like, she feeds me something, and then
Yeah.
can you make this studio relatable? And I'll come up with the idea of
It's a little bit impromptu,
yeah.
kind of, and well, I think it's what makes it more authentic to me too, is the fact that you guys are just coming up with a goofy thing, or maybe it's super serious.
Literally at the very beginning of a day, before a tracking session, before the clients get there, during the lunch break or after, she'll stay over. It's like, hey, we need to get, you know, I take questions on my stories
Yeah, yeah, right.
and or messaging, and then answer it. She'll read them off, and then I answer it. So not only, like, if you're the one that asks a question, not only do you get your question answered, but other guys that may be interested in that topic, it'll be posted as a reel. You've
Yes,
probably seen them,
sure, yeah,
and so all that stuff, she handles it all.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. But I know where you're going, and I what I've noticed, I don't think anybody out there should be to try to get the YouTube or the social media thing going in hopes to get free stuff. I just don't think that should be the goal. Um, but I'm sure it is going to be the lot for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yes, I have got, because of my Instagram platform numbers
Mhm.
and some of the YouTube videos that I've done for either Plugin Alliance or Produce Like a Pro that have gotten a lot of numbers. I do have companies reach out and say, hey, would you try this microphone? Hey, would you try this speaker? Whatever the case. So that does happen,
Yeah.
but I don't think, I think that it's probably not going to happen that soon, and you don't go asking for it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to, I think, pin down exactly what I'm wanting to say,
Yeah.
but on the work side of it, um, I do get some, in fact, I've got a rock song that I've got to do tomorrow, or I'm trying to do tomorrow, out of Switzerland, from a guy that found me on the Produce Like a Pro. He watched my videos on Produce Like a Pro. He likes to record himself, likes to do his rough mixes, but knows he, is not the one to get it across the finish line.
Yeah.
So I do get some gigs like that,
Okay.
but honestly, not very many.
Okay.
It really hasn't been that much of a career booster as far as my day-to-day work.
It's not really translating into like new clients
No,
necessarily.
no. I think a lot of young engineers get into it for that reason. They're like, hey, if I'm seen as an expert, my phone will ring and I'll get a lot more work. And that really hasn't been the case for me. I'm not gonna. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't get 12 songs a year or whatever, because I do, but it's not a sustainable. It's like, hey, I can make my living off of this. Not even close.
Right.
Not even close.
Well, it's still, the clientele base is still uh, a life's work of doing as excellent of a job as possible, creating relationships with people over a long period of time.
Right.
That you still can't negate that method
Yeah.
of working with clients and creating relationships,
Hmm.
and people coming back to you with project after project after
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
That's a platform that you still can't beat.
Right,
It's a
right,
little bit
right.
old school.
It's old school. It's the dinosaur way, but it
Yeah.
it it still is. I think most of us that actually make our living mixing records every day or going to studios and tracking every day, that's still 90% of our business, is really the dinosaur. Hey, that label, that producer, that artist, they want him. They want that engineer to track it. They want that engineer to mix it, and that number of clients that you have is what creates your income,
Sure.
with a little extra income coming in from, hey, random random thing from Australia or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And that does happen, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's another thing. They contact you and hey, what's it gonna cost? And you give them the budget, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, I can't.
Kinda,
You know.
yeah. kind of eliminates them,
Yeah,
unfortunately, sometimes.
right, right.
But get so, and we'll wrap this up here in just a second, Joe. One of the things I don't know if people are going to be curious or if you can kind of share, but like, what do you think your workload typically looks like per week, per month, per year? Like, give us an idea of what that looks like from your end.
I, if I'm being really honest, it's very unhealthy. I've lived this way for a long time now, since since my 20s, and I'm actually hoping to slow down, not retire by any means. I'm not even close to old enough, but like I don't even I watch all my friends make plans for Saturdays and Sundays, and I have to be in here every Sunday at 6 a.m. Just to try to get some hours free that evening. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
I'm not bragging.
No,
That's not a good thing.
this there was a we did a whole other podcast episode about that. So
Yeah, it's not healthy at all. It's hard, and which takes its toll on your personal relationships, with friends and your kids and your spouse.
mental health, physical health,
Oh
all the
gosh,
things. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
If I wasn't so in love with this craft and so passionate about it, I would have burned out a long time ago. But because like for example, I'll let the cat out of the bag on something. The my passion for teaching has gotten so big and vast, like it's consumed enough of my brain power now that um, I'm going to start like a program
Okay.
that's not, I've sold courses before, right, with Kit or several with Produce Like a Pro, where it's like, hey, you can download the multi tracks of this one song and watch me mix it. That's great, but the way I got where I'm at is because I sat beside Bobby while he mixed yeah, you know, 100 songs for those 3 years, right? So you have to sit with somebody and really watch them and absorb what they're doing over and over. One video, you're gonna get some tips and you're gonna get some ideas. Ooh, that plug-in, that was cool. But to really become what you wanna become, I think you need to be beside the guy a lot. And so I'm coming up with a way to do that. Um, all that to say, like, I get frustrated because I want to release that to the guys that, are there's like, man, I'm stuck in Boise, Idaho, and I can't move to Nashville, but I aspire to be the best mixer I can, and that's what I want to do. And I can't get time to film it because I'm working on too many records. But if I'm not working on records, I'm not making any money. So it's yeah, man,
It's a catch-22.
it really is. I get frustrated. I know when they see me online, I'm always smiling. I'm smiling now, but sometimes behind closed doors here in the chair, I get a little frustrated.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, a fellow engineer. You probably know him if I told you, but we were just eating breakfast, and we were talking about we were talking about guys who kind of do what we do, or tracking engineers, mix engineers, whoever they are. You have to. There's got to be a switch that's gone wrong in your brain somewhere, but because there's this roller coaster of emotions
Yeah,
constantly, every day, every
yeah,
week, where it's like, how many mixes do I have coming in? I don't have anything coming in. I'm gonna have to quit. I'm gonna have to get another
yeah,
job.
yeah,
And then
exactly.
it's like, now I have too many. And
Right.
it's a for people who haven't worked 25 years in this industry, it's difficult to explain to other people who have a corporate job or a different industry, where it's like this constant roller coaster of emotions working for yourself. I mean,
Hmm.
you're in business for yourself, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress that you sometimes impose on yourself.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's outward,
Oh yeah.
things that impose stress on
Label
you.
deadlines. It's like, hey, it has to be turned into mastering this Friday.
Yeah.
Period.
So in your brain, to your point earlier, you're thinking, well, I'm just going to be in here all 7 days next week because I'm going to get it. I'm the guy. Like, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And you strive for that and want to make sure you please everybody and you hit the deadlines. And it's an extremely difficult emotion to explain to people unless you've been in the seat
Yeah.
and done it for a long time, to kind of know the ebb and the flow and the self doubt. I mean, there's self doubt and things that come along too.
It's a
So
very, very hard industry to make a living in. To break in is hard, as a lot of these guys will know. But once you get in, if you're successful, um, it's really hard to balance your life.
Right. And then maintain and feel like you're going to maintain a certain level of
Quality,
client and quality,
yeah,
all the things.
yeah. It's been a real challenge. That honestly, that's been my biggest challenge in this career path is life outside of here. Trying to have one, um, and just it's been rough. But this room that I'm in right now, that was a response to that, of working so many Saturdays and Sundays downtown by myself, while my son was, at the time he was 7, I think, when I decided to do this. No, he was 10. I think he was 10. And I was realizing this, my God, I'm missing his whole life. And so I bought this house just because of this room that it had that I could build out the studio. So even I didn't have any misconceptions of that my life was going to get easier, my workload was going to get easier, but I knew that I could have lunch with him every day in the summertime, and I can in the middle of the afternoon in the summer when he's out of school, I can go upstairs and get him, and we can go get ice cream.
Sure.
He's a car junkie, and we've got a Corvette, so we can take our Corvette on Friday nights to the car show for a couple. We were out there for probably 90 minutes last Friday night before I came back to work. But I couldn't do that if I had to commute from downtown. So the sacrifice, that was one of the sacrifices I made to try to have a resemblance of it's rough. It really is,
Well,
man.
it takes some things that I think all of us have kind of learned some lessons and some things if you've been in this very long, and where you have some bad days and you make some mistakes, and then you figure out like, okay, I can't do that again. Let's figure out a new way to do
Mm,
the thing that we need to do. So
yeah.
it's just
A lot of my stress is self-imposed too, though.
yeah with
I,
this.
I I'm a perfectionist, and I'm never content, and I'm never happy. I truly am not. Like any mix that I've done today, I want to be better tomorrow. So I'm constantly chasing. I It's like Jordan. 3 championships aren't enough. I need number 4. I need number 5. I need number 6. That's just my mindset. So some of it, I've made worse than it probably has to be. But I think a lot of these guys that are watching are tracking right with me. They're like, yeah, that's me too. Like, I'm never content with my skills or my client list or my accomplishments or my outboard rack, my microphone collection. I'm never content, because I'm always chasing the next thing that's better. And I think that's that's a good sign to a point, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, it can be unhealthy, but it's also it's a good sign that there's something exceptional and something. If you're content with less than the best, this probably isn't. You're probably not going to make a career of this industry. It may be a great hobby. You may have a great time with it, but producers are looking for people that's just as passionate as they are.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's real obvious when you're in the room with people if they have it or don't.
That's very, very true. Well, Joe, man, I really appreciate your time today. We'll wrap things up. I don't want to hold you up any longer, but I genuinely appreciate you allowing me to come in and
Oh, you're welcome.
steal a few minutes of your time. And I appreciate your transparency and being genuine, because what I do think that through a lot of the podcasts that we do, I want people to pick up some things of like, hey, this is a real life experience. This is
Hmm.
what Joe Carroll does every day, and I think that's important for young engineers, maybe people who are working in the industry, to get a different viewpoint of
Hmm.
what other engineers are doing in their space.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I love that too. I mean, during my commute, a lot of times I'm listening to interviews with Bob Clearmountain
Right.
or whatever, some of my heroes and things. So uh, it's always informative.
Yep. And
Yeah.
if you're not, it's just like you said earlier, I think you have to, in this business or in any other industry, I think if you're not willing to continue to learn and grow and make yourself better,
Craving it,
you're,
craving
yeah,
growth.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of missing out on
Hmm.
the point. So,
Right.
but once again, thanks for letting us come in,
You're very welcome.
invade your space for a little while. And we're going to wrap up for this episode of the Studio 101 podcast. And we will see you next time.